So I think we're all in agreement that drastic action needs to be taken in order to reduce our carbon emissions. And we've talked a lot about what the CLCPA is recommending needs to be done in its prescriptive nature. But I'd like to talk a little bit about what we have done to get to where we're at. And Gavin, you spoke a lot about what the tremendous progress that the power generation sector has made. So I'd like each one of you to discuss a little bit about what we've done and the progress we've made up to this point.
Well, I outlined at the beginning reductions in CO2 and NOx and SOx in particular matter. Proud of those accomplishments. One of the things we have in New York that other states, some have, is a regional greenhouse gas initiative. Put a price on carbon is something else we've talked about in this state. It's controversial. You put a price on carbon, it's another tax for everybody to pay. How do you do it? Which economies do it? I mean, it's very complicated. But one of the things that's happened in the last, let's say 45 days, but certainly just happened last week. You have the Inflation Reduction Act. Senator Schumer says New York State is going to get $70 billion for projects by 2050 under that law. The Environmental Bond Act just passed, $4.2 billion. $1 billion plus of that are projects to go for climate initiatives. So right there, I mean, I've been fairly critical about the Climate Council and our scoping plan, and I remain critical about that. But there are going to be opportunities in the state to invest in new technologies, in new innovative types of things to keep the lights on that at the same time address the climate change issues that we're trying to address. So that's a lot of money for New York State, and it shouldn't be just pushed aside. Folks should start to look at that as a way to invest in New York State.
Yeah, I think one of the other lost points of this whole discussion is where New York State was in 2019 when this law passed. We were, coal was basically extinct in New York State, driven by markets, not by, well, a little bit by policy, but ultimately by markets and the increased availability and reduced cost of natural gas. We also saw that happening in other states that were far more coal dependent on us, where the market development was pushing the power sector to be more carbon efficient. And I do think New York State was well along. We've been matching the California CARB mandates, I think literally since they were first adopted. So New York State policy was moving the state to be a more energy efficient and carbon efficient state. One thing I will say though, one of the unfortunate consequences of some of that action is one of the reasons why our industrial emissions are so low is New York State has lost a significant share of its industrial base. And that's a wide number of factors. It's, energy cost is part of the mix. It's relatively high cost of doing business for a variety of factors. And I think that's a lesson learned where we've heard, some skeptics of this concept of economic and emission leakage is not happening. So we have 40 years of experience of economic leakage. Look at our, we've lost half of our manufacturing base the last 20 years. And that's a significant impact, particularly once you move away New York City. Think about some of the production that used to be in the Hudson Valley, in the Capital Region, in central New York where I'm from. We've lost a lot, and I think that's got to be a lesson learned. We're already moving in this direction. I'm not sure we needed to move as far and as fast as the CLCPA is driving us to. And there are, opportunities for investment, as Gavin said. But I think there's also that downside risk of if we're driving, costs too high or limiting technology in ways that don't make sense.
Yeah, I would agree with things that they both said. I mean, look, we've been a leader in things like energy efficiency, which is kind of maybe one of the lower cost solutions. We deregulated markets, which I think had some opportunities for us in the state and helped in some of the environmental factors that Ken spoke about. But we have to be careful. This is a balancing act here, and we all believe in the law. We want to get to the goals, but how do you get to the goals matter here, and it matters a lot for New York State. Each one of us have probably had some time in state government, whether it's DC, the legislature, Empire State Development. I mean, we love New York. We've been fighting on behalf of New Yorkers probably most of our working lives. We deeply care about this state, and we're at a critical juncture now that no one's against these goals, but how you implement them, being careful about the reliability of the system, the affordability system, this loss that we've been having for 40 years in New York State concerns us all. And so these are just discussions that we want to make sure we're having, and I'm not sure there's been enough of them wide enough and there's not enough of understanding. So I think today is an important point to make sure that we're having robust discussions and debate about how we get there, because it really matters for the future of the state. And I think that's what we're here to discuss today, and what's really important for people to understand, that this matters going forward.